Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and gender nonconforming individuals to another episode of the Benjamin Dixon Show. Today is Monday, September 25th, 2023. Thank you so much for joining me. I have been out for the past week sick with COVID-19. After 3 years of keeping my kids as safe as I possibly could, and my wife and I, we doing what we had to do to protect ourselves as we began moving forward with all the things that we're doing here locally, it was inevitable, especially when you consider how the government and how particularly the state of Florida has done everything it could to exacerbate the spread of COVID-19. Without question, we are living in a dangerous time when our political leaders are literally doing everything they can to ensure the maximum spread of COVID-19. And as it stands, my family, we are doing fine. We're all recovering. And today is our first day back in the grind with all of the things that we have to accomplish, including this podcast. So thanks so much for your patience last week. And thanks to all of the patrons who showed love and sent support. And I also want to send a special thank you to members of our church who made sure that we had food and make sure that we had everything that we needed to not have to leave the house while we got better. That said, let's begin with the news, and no better place to begin this morning than with the fact that today, beginning today, you can get access to free at-home rapid COVID-19 tests as provided by the White House. The Biden administration has announced that today, beginning today, each household can get up to 4 rapid at-home tests mailed out to them for free. Now, this is despite the fact that on May 11th, this same White House declared an end to the COVID-19 federal emergency status, which made it much more difficult to find vaccines and made it impossible to get a vaccine for free. You now have to pay for it. Many cancellations are happening across the country at CVS and Walgreens because people are showing up for the updated booster shot and they are unable to get it without paying $200 or something along those lines out of pocket. But this is a clear indication from the White House that they understand that COVID-19 is not over, despite the fact that everywhere we turn, we have people telling us, like Tim Scott last week, saying that the pandemic is over. COVID-19 is done.
It just goes up like a rocket. If we went back to, there's no longer COVID, by the way. We can't use that as an excuse. Someone say, thank God. Right?
Yes, thank God. I got COVID-19 while I was at church, by the way, Tim Scott. COVID-19 is very real. Thank God for the vaccine because the side effects were minimal for my household. But we have ordered 4 additional tests that are coming directly from the White House. And I encourage you to go to covidtest.gov to get your free test to protect yourself and your family as much as you possibly can in an environment where, quite frankly, COVID-19 has been allowed to run amok, uninhibited, unthwarted, because to stop COVID-19, we would have had to engage in policies that would have affected the quarterly profit margins of corporations and billionaires. I mean, if we really look at the reason why we did not shut down properly, if we look at the reasons why, we understand that it is tied directly to the need for this system to continue without ever stopping. And when I say this system, I do mean this economic capitalistic system. They were insisting on you doing the exact opposite of what was in your best interest in terms of your health. They insisted that you go back to work instead of working from home. They insisted that you don't wear masks instead of masking. They insisted that you do not get the vaccine instead of getting the vaccine. All of the basic public health things, policies, techniques that we know have worked for generations in this country. bringing an end to various epidemics, bringing an end to diseases that otherwise would have wiped us out as a population. We have now entered into an era where public health has been completely and totally decimated, such to the extent that these tests, these home tests that the White House is sending out, is almost the first sign that we have that this government is going to be capable of actually implementing some public health measures. And to be honest with you, this is even woefully insufficient. So I am simultaneously grateful that the White House is acknowledging, even with this indirect acknowledgement of sending out at-home tests, at least it is a step back towards public health versus the reality over the last 4 years of this pandemic. We have seen a complete and total destruction and unraveling of our public health system because, one, it became a political football tool, but two, we have entrenched economic power that absolutely refused to allow this nation to shut down long enough to stop this pandemic. And here we are. I mean, quite honestly, we're so far gone and so far removed that it is 100% the case that you simply have to roll the dice to live now, to go forward. After 4 years of this 3.5 years going into 4 years of this pandemic, now the way we move forward is by simply taking your chances, because we're surrounded by a system that from the top down insisted on exposing us to COVID-19. And from the bottom up, the level of ignorance and anti-science, anti-vax, anti-mask messaging that resonated at the bottom and fomented all across society. Here we are going into year 4 of the pandemic that did not have to be endemic, of a virus that we had the tools necessary to stop. And because we did not have the political will or the societal will, nor the economic will, we will be living with COVID-19 for the foreseeable future. All right, that said, when we come back from break, I have a clip of none other than Snoop Dogg letting his followers know that there's no way in the world they should vote for Donald Trump. But this clip has made some black folks upset. Not a lot of us, but there's a handful of black people who have gone after Snoop because he's telling them not to vote for the white supremacist in chief, Donald Trump. Interesting times in which we live. We'll be back with more of the Benjamin Dixon Show after this break.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
I just want to say this real quick, not on the political shit. Ain't no fucking way in the world y'all can vote for Donald Trump when he come back up again. If y'all do vote for him, y'all some stupid motherfuckers. I'm saying that to y'all. And this punk motherfucker don't care. Don't vote for that nigga, please don't. Look what he do. He just don't give a fuck. Y'all honest, blue-collar, hard-working people and suffering. So if he don't care about y'all, he really don't give a fuck about us. So fuck him too. Fuck everybody down with Donald Trump. I said he is Snoop Dogg. Fuck him.
I'm sorry. That is a good clip from Snoop, very directly saying you cannot be down with Donald Trump in 2024. Like, did you people not learn your lesson in 2020 or 2016 rather? Did we not see what happened over those 4 years? Here's an interesting thing. There are quite a few black folks who are going after Trump, and I mean, not Trump, but Snoop, because of this clip. And it really is exposing the amount of investment that Republicans have made in the black community. I'm reminded of back in 2020 when one of Donald Trump's supporting groups went into the black community and started handing out envelopes with $600 in it, as a way of getting their support. You could look at Politico.com and just Google Donald Trump $600 and black people. It'll come right up and you can read the story for yourself. That's because Republicans 100% know that they had to find a way to get as many black people as possible without actually stop being racist. Right. That's the catch. Right. Because as we live in this era right now, we are living in the direct aftermath of what Donald Trump did to this nation, giving white supremacy the platform that it needed to rise again. I mean, it never really went anywhere, but we are certainly living in an all-out war against blackness. And I really want to ask some of the people in the comment section on Instagram who are going off on him, on Twitter, who are going off on him. Did you not see all of the Nazis that came as a result of Donald Trump? The boldness and the brashness of white supremacy right now is without question. And it's not even just about the language and the rhetoric. It's actually about the arrogance and the willingness to actually cause physical harm. As I look at the cases that I cover with some of my friends from Building Bridges, the organization Building Bridges, that we meet every Wednesday night, and we listen to the stories of black families who have lost loved ones. White folks are killing black people at an extraordinary rate right now. It's so bad that you just have to conclude, like states like Mississippi, they have mastered the art of killing black people in 2023 and getting away with it. Just full stop, getting away with it. Now, this never stopped. I want people to be sure that the racism in this country never died. But we are certainly living in the renaissance of white supremacy. And that is a direct result of Donald Trump playing to that audience, playing to that crowd. And quite honestly, that crowd lifting Donald Trump into the White House. And so seeing black people be upset with Snoop because he gets it. He's like, listen, we don't have time to play in 2024. We simply don't, because what's on the other side of 2024 is the destruction of the Department of Justice, which if anybody has had to try to fight for if any black person has ever tried to fight for justice on the state level, and you see what these state level justice organizations like the Georgia Bureau of Investigation or the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, all of these institutions work against black people. If you've ever had to fight for justice on the state level, you know how important it is for us to be able to appeal to the Department of Justice, particularly the Civil Rights Department. And we are actively living in a campaign being headed up by the likes of Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene and the conservative movement in this country to completely reconstitute, destroy, and rebuild the Department of Justice. And what do you think they're going to get rid of? Do you think they're going to get rid of the FBI altogether? No, they're going to get rid of the Civil Rights Department, the Civil Rights Division. I mean, that's the plan. That's the plan. And what's wild about this is watching these so-called America First black people. Like what the hell does that even, like, America First black people? You're taking the same exact language as literal Nazis like Nicholas Fuentes, this America First paradigm, which is not about putting the United States of America first, nor is it about putting Americans first. It's about putting white supremacy first in the United States of America. And that group of black people, well, I mean, they are fangs out against Snoop. I mean, it's almost like Snoop talked about their mother, the way that they are like just drenched with hate in their mouths because he told them not to vote for Donald Trump. Well, those people most of those people are one of two things. They're either paid operatives by the Republican infrastructure, literally pouring cash into black influencers, black social media entrepreneurs, all of a sudden you have a really organized group of black people on social media who have the exact same precise talking points as Nazis and white supremacists. And those are the folks who are going after Snoop. I'm sorry, the Republican Party does not have enough money to buy off all of black America. All they really have to do, though, is stop being racist. There are plenty of black people who agree with the Republican Party on issues, and we'll see, as we'll talk about later on, what's going on the border. I have a clip from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez discussing immigration. They're going to find black folks who align with the Republican Party on the border. You're going to find black folks who align with the Republican Party on the LGBTQIA rights. You're going to have black folks who align with the Republican Party on abortion, on a woman's right to choose, right? But because the Republican Party has such a committed base of avowed racists, the Republican Party will never be able to shed their white supremacist base in exchange for enough black people who will ignore the racism. They won't. They can pay as many people as they want. They can drop as many coins as they can into all these influencers. But at the end of the day, the Republican Party never fails to show its racism. And yes, listen, one of the number one replies I saw to Snoop was, oh, I guess that means you're going to support Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe, 94 Crime Bill Joe. Listen, folks, please don't ever put me in a position where I have to defend Joe Biden. I voted for Joe Biden solely because he wasn't a fascist, solely because I knew that was going to buy us enough time to ward off fascism. Yes, we are in a year by year push against fascism. So please don't make me turn around and have to let you know that Joe Biden is the first president in the history of this country to directly call white supremacy out from the White House and call it for the threat that it is to black people and for the threat that it is to the United States of America. And honestly, calling it out is never enough. But if you cannot see the substantive difference between the sitting president of the United States who's calling out white supremacy from the White House and a president like Donald Trump who activated white supremacists, telling the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. He animates them. He gives them life. He supports them. They are his support base. And you think that this is the person that you should support as a black man, as a black woman, as a Hispanic person, as a person of color? And what's wild is that they're not even saying go vote for Cornel West. This is how I know all of the contrarianism that we see online is really nothing but fueled conservatism, funded conservatism, because these people aren't saying, oh, I'm not supporting Trump, I'm supporting Cornel West. No, they're saying I'm supporting Trump. If you actually wanted to make a statement to say I am not supporting this system or I'm not going to support a white supremacist, and you draw an equivalence between the white supremacy of Joe Biden in the 94 Crime Bill and the 2023 white supremacy of Donald Trump waging a war on blackness, calling it a war on woke. If you draw an equivalence between those two, fine. I can't help you with your false equivalence, but I can ask you, why then would you support Donald Trump? Why would you not go out and support Cornel West? That's because it's never been about actually changing the system for these people. It's about the fact that some of them, and quite a few of them, are getting paid to tell you to support Donald Trump. And apparently Snoop D-O-double-G has had enough of it. All right, let's get to this patron party.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. Very special welcome to 3 new patrons. Sarah Anderson, thank you so much for becoming a patron. Snappy D, thank you so much for becoming a patron. And very special welcome to What Do You Mean videos. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. This party is for the 3 of you. Turn it up. You too can become a part of this prestigious and most prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/the BPD show, where you get twice the content, none of the commercial interruptions, and you get access to our upcoming revitalized, relaunched, and renewed patron parties. Patreon.com/the BPD show, and we will be back right after this break. Unless, of course, you're a patron. You don't get any of these commercial breaks. No.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Yeah. Welcome back. Coming up in the patrons only episode, I will be discussing this clip from Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, where she discusses the root causes of the migrant buildup happening at the border, which is American foreign policy, specifically sanctions against Venezuela, that has led to tens of thousands of families to escape Venezuela to find refuge in the nation that created the problem in the first place. Specifically, those sanctions that were written and authored by Republican Senator from the state of Florida, Marco Rubio. And it's not just Venezuela. Of course, we know America's foreign policy towards Guatemala, El Salvador, the Honduras, and even against Haiti. Those various policies by the United States of America, that's the reason we have the migrant buildup that we have at the border. We'll discuss that. And I also want to discuss it from the context of particularly Black people who, while the Black community is far from a monolith, especially when it comes to issues like immigration, it's stunning to see the number of social media influencers who are engaging in the exact right-wing rhetoric and vitriol of Nazis and white supremacists when it comes to migrants. I want to discuss that as well. Patreon.com/the BPD show, along with a tweet that I sent out that upset a whole lot of the social media anti-immigration crowd. I will discuss that. Patreon.com/the BPD show. That said, before I close the public show, I want to kind of delve into a much broader conversation that I have been tracking for some time. My expertise is in foreign policy. My expertise is in international development and international relations, and that's my study. That's where I've studied academically, and that's my background. And I have been tracking for some time the push away from liberal democracy, specifically as it pertains to the United States of America. Right now, the most fascinating thing that is happening can be found and rooted in the study that I discussed last week, showing that white racists are far more likely to oppose democracy than white non-racist people or anti-racist people. And what we have happening right now in the United States of America is a concerted effort by conservatives who have all agreed that they're done with democracy. In the United States of America, conservatives have stacked at every level of the state, at every level of the federal government. They have stacked in people, elected officials who oppose elections, election deniers. Right? We have people serving in roles as secretaries of state who are responsible for the certification of every election, whether it's dog catcher or president of the United States. Republicans across the country have installed individuals who deny the last election, who actively are seeking to implement policies that would give them the authority to overrule the 2024 elections. This is the concerted effort of the Republican Party, and it mirrors exactly what that study showed us last week, showing that the more racist a person is, the more likely they are to oppose democracy. And that's only what's happening at one end of the spectrum of what's going on in this country, as it is connected to a global rejection of liberal democracy. And for those people who are like, well, what is liberal democracy? It's an academic term. It has nothing to do with liberalism. It has nothing to do with liberalism as you define, as conservatives define it. It has everything to do with the people having the right to govern themselves. Democracy itself has become an impediment for strong men across the globe. And we have seen more nations fall into the control of authoritarianism, military dictatorships than we have seen in generations. And here in the United States, the Republican Party and the conservative movement has decided that instead of holding to their red, white, and blue principles that they've been indoctrinating us with for the last 250 years, they're now saying, you know what? We're done with democracy. We're done with the States of America being governed by the people. We want a theocracy. We want an authoritarian, theocratic state. That's what they want. And they are pairing and partnering with global actors who are seeking to remove democracy across the globe. And as that happens, you have the likes of Elon Musk sitting back laughing and encouraging the paradigm, the discussion that's happening right now across social media is the obsession with the fall of the Roman Empire. This time around, as Elon Musk said, they get to watch it with Wi-Fi and memes. Simultaneously, they are actively supplanting democracy. It's not a passive look at the fall of the American empire. It is an active engagement in the destruction of the United States of America. And yes, I 100% know what I'm doing when I call it the American empire, even in this context. Because the people who wielded the American empire in the most barbaric way imaginable over the last 250 years are now suddenly done with it when black folks, marginalized groups, when we got power, when we got the chance to change this corrupt empire that has been visiting violence all around the globe since its inception. I want you to really think about that. Those are the people who are saying, oh, no, we're done with democracy because democracy opened the door to sharing power with the people they needed to continue oppressing. And so those are the people who are now gallivanting around the globe, pretending as though they are on a noble mission to save the world from the American empire when they were the creators and the facilitators of the most barbaric possible interpretation of America. The most barbaric wielding of the American military industrial complex came from the exact people who are now ditching it and saying, we want Vladimir Putin. Those are the people who are saying that democracy is over. Those are the people who are actively in the trenches doing everything they can to undermine and to weaken the United States of America, the very people who benefited from the white supremacist imperialism of the United States of America. And somehow we are supposed to buy into the idea that they're the heroes of the story. They're the good faith actors. Coming up also in the Patrons Only episode, I will be discussing the investigation that's happening into the Baton Rouge Police Department for having a black site where they would take arrestees and they would interrogate and torture them. This is according to NPR.org. Listen, when I said earlier in today's episode, states like Mississippi have mastered the art of killing black people and getting away with it, you do have to understand that extends through so many different layers of this system being accustomed to doing anything that it wants to, not only to black people, because we see this type of black site being used against almost every type of American. But they specialize in doing it to black people. In fact, they practiced on us so long, for so many years, that they now have mastered the art of doing it to literally anyone they want to. But that's because we ignored it when they were doing this to black people. Like I've been saying for the last 10 years, the police state was first perfected in the black community. Patreon.com/the BPD show. We'll discuss that. If not, I'll see you later this week.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.